Hi, I'm Brian Marsh, your potential coach. Do you have a fear of letting others down? Do you grapple with that? Does it keep you awake at night? We're going to talk about that in this video. Stay tuned. The first step in not letting others down is set clear expectations. In walking you through this particular topic, I am going to use a personal example for myself. Some time ago, my son went out of the country and he asked if I would start his car while he was gone so that the battery would not run down. I committed to doing that. I told him I would. When he got back into the country, guess what? The battery was dead. Although I had started the car multiple times, I clearly did not start the car and let it run enough times or let the car run long enough. So when he returned, the battery was drained. Now, that is an example of me setting expectations, but not setting a clear expectation. So that is the takeaway from point number one. You have to set a clear expectation. Now, let me give you an example of how the conversation should have gone if I was going to set a clear expectation. In my son's voice, "Dad, could you start my car when I'm gone?" Father, me, "Yes, son, I can start the car when you're gone. How often do you want me to start the car?" Could you start the car 3 times a week?" Perhaps. Would 2 times a week work? "No, I really need it 3 times a week, Dad, please." "Okay, son, I'll start it 3 times a week." That's an example of a conversation where clear expectations are set. He told me what he needed from me. I told him what I could do, and ultimately I agreed to his terms. We had a meeting of the minds and clear expectations were set. Use that as your roadmap to not letting others down. Make sure that clear expectations are set on both sides of the equation. So the second point to not letting others down is not overcommitting. Specifically, we talked about setting expectations. Now let's talk about setting proper commitments. Now, most people want to commit, and most people want to be liked, and most people want to say yes when they are asked to do something. No is not in most people's vocabulary. But here's what happens when you overcommit. You stretch yourself too thin, and ultimately you end up letting people down. When you don't do simple things such as consult your calendar before you make a commitment to someone, you set yourself up to overcommit. When you say yes to too many things at one time, you stretch yourself too thin, and you cannot possibly give 100% of yourself to each and every commitment. And so you end up showing up poorly at different occasions and different events. That, for most people, is incongruent and inconsistent with who they are. Most people don't like to be late for events, And most people don't like to let others down. But that's exactly what ends up happening when you overcommit. Back to my son's example with the car. I could not initially start the car as many times as he wanted because I overcommitted. Remember, we didn't have that clarifying conversation about expectations, and so I didn't know how many times he expected me to start the car while he was gone. I overcommitted because the reality is I sporadically started the car because I did not check my calendar and give him a firm yes or a firm no. So overcommitment leads to you saying yes to a lot of things you would rather not say yes to. So this leads me to my very next point, which is get comfortable with saying no. Saying no does not make you a bad person, nor does it make you a mean person. Saying no makes you a person of character because your yay is yay and your no is no. You are not overcommitted and you have set clear expectations. So when you have to say no to a situation, you say no to that situation with a clear mindset. You don't worry that you've said no because no actually means no in this situation, as opposed to you saying no because you're just so exhausted and so worn out because you're so overcommitted. No means no because you've checked your calendar and you simply cannot fulfill the commitment and the expectation that the other person wants you to fulfill. I know from experience that the temporary pain that you feel from saying no is less than the stress you feel and the anxiety that you feel when you say yes to something and you are overcommitted. I have felt the sting and the pain of that. Many of you have as well. Many of you have spouses that you have overcommitted to and you have not met that commitment. How does that make you feel? I can write a book on it, quite candidly. I know how I feel when I let my spouse down after I have committed something to her. And oftentimes I've committed to her, I should say I've overcommitted to her. And I ultimately have to feel that pain and the anguish of letting her down again and again. Remember, no is not a bad word and it doesn't make you a bad person. Make no your new normal. This is Brian Marsh, your potential coach. For more information, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. See you next time.